Do what makes you happy. That sounds so simple. If you've got to get a quote unquote 9 to 5 punching a time clock to make ends meet, and if basket weaving makes you happy, come home and start basket weaving. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be easy. People hear when I say do what makes you happy, and they think it's just like, oh, well, fishing made Jimmy happy and he went out and fishing, and then all this stuff happened. That's not the case, you just heard the story. That's not how it was. I mean, there was turn down on loans. I mean, I collapsed in the house one time because I thought it was over, and me not getting a boat meant my brain, I was going to die. So do what makes you happy. Go through a grind if you have to. But if you keep pushing and you put the same intensity and the same work ethic forth as we did when we were slinging lead across the pond there, you're going to succeed.
This is the Tom Rowland Podcast. Fascinating stories to amaze, encourage, and inspire you in fishing, fitness, and the outdoors. And we're brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee. I started this podcast as a way to connect with my friends, people that I admire and respect, and you. It has been a learning journey that's made me a better person, a better fisherman, a better father, and a better athlete. I'm so happy that you're on this journey with me, and I'd love to hear from you with show suggestions, guest suggestions, or questions. The best way to get a hold of me is through text. You can text 305-930-7346 for the fastest response, but if you prefer to email, you can send that to podcast@saltwaterexperience.com. That's a dedicated email address just for the show. If you like this show, you can show your support by posting about it on social media and tagging me. Text the link to a couple of friends that may also enjoy it, and subscribe and leave a 5-star review if you feel like I've earned it. The website is tomrowlandpodcast.com, and that is where everything lives. All past shows, you can go and listen to any show. You can look up all the different shows that we've done, both the How To Tuesdays, the full links, and the Physical Fridays. They all live on tomrowlandpodcast.com. And the social media is Tom_Rowland, ROWLAND, on Instagram, or you can go to our big account, Saltwater_Experience. I hope to hear from you soon. So now, let's get on to today's show.
This is Captain Jimmy Armel, and this is the Tom Rowland Podcast.
All right, Jimmy, what's up, man?
Another day in paradise. We're trying to stay warm up here in Savannah right now, though. It's it got down in the 20s yesterday. So.
That's the second time this year. That's the second time, right? The second time this year that it's gotten really cold.
Yeah. This is our second big cold front. So hopefully it's the last one. It's obviously going to mess with our inshore and stuff. Offshore, we just kind of switch gears a little bit and just change what we go after.
Mm-hmm. And on the inshore, mostly for those fish up there, redfish and the other things that you're fishing for, do you have fish kills when it gets really cold? Do you ever do that? Have that? Because we do in the Keys sometimes.
The last one happened actually 2 years before I really even just started recreationally fishing here when I was still in Ranger Battalion. It was like 08, 09.
Yeah.
Something like that. But that was the last one. And I think they're rare here. We get a couple of cold days, but I think the moving tides help. Mm-hmm. And then obviously with the moving tides, even in the creeks and stuff, we have some really deep holes, 20, 30 plus feet. There's one little place where 3 creeks come together and it's an 80, 90 foot hole. So
really? Nice.
Yeah, there's places those fish can go and hide out. And that's just a guess on the tide thing. I just don't think, as long as you get the tide moving, as long as that wind switches direction, you get a big tide, it's going to push some of that warm water in. So I think that helps us too with the fish kills.
Yeah, we've had really some significant fish kills from cold weather in the Florida Keys. And I'm sure that a redfish is way more able to handle the cold water than a permit or a bonefish. I mean, the bonefish got hit really hard a while back, but we just had this same cold front that you're getting is coming through the Florida Keys. And I was thinking, man, I hope that doesn't happen again. It doesn't seem like it's going to be as cold, but yeah, for the people in South Carolina and Georgia and your area, this is, you see them in their snow suits and That's what happens in the Keys, man. It goes to 40 degrees and everybody's got their down jackets on, and 50 degrees even. I mean, everything they can wear.
I was down there last week before last with my Starbright family down there, and there was a couple of days there. You know, we had the heat on in the pool.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it feels colder.
Up in the Keys.
It feels colder, and I was actually happy to see this because my boys both are they're both in Montana, and they grew up, you know, in the Keys and in Tennessee as well, and it got pretty cold. It was like in the 20s, and when they were home for Christmas, and he was saying, my son was saying, man, it's way colder here than in Bozeman. And I've always kind of thought that, but I've always thought, well, maybe I'm just not, you know, used to cold weather, and I don't like cold weather very much. And maybe I'm just kind of a wimp. But it definitely it does feel colder in an area where you have more humidity, like either in South Carolina or in Florida or in Tennessee or anywhere in the South. If it's 20, it's really cold. If it's 20 out west, those guys are skiing in shorts, man. It just doesn't feel as cold, I guess, because of the humidity.
I grew up in Virginia. Actually right there in that, we're outside, it's Northern Virginia, but not the DC part. DC's kind of pushed towards a little bit, but it's rural Shenandoah Valley, Appalachian Mountains.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's, you know, it gets cold there. You know, the other day when I was down in the Keys, it got down to 6 degrees up there.
That's super cold.
I don't have that.
Yeah. Did you grow up with doing the smallmouth bass fishing and stuff? I know the Shenandoah Valley is fantastic for that.
Believe it or not, I mean, really the only fishing I did growing up, oddly enough, I was considered the city boy in the family. Every other guy, I mean, is all about hardcore hunting, you know, into the fishing. It was more for the eating side of the fish. So it was basically go out, you know, and with your night crawlers, and, you know, if you were going after some catfish, which my grandfather refused to eat, I just like to catch them because they were fun. But yeah, he was is one of those awesome dude. But I grew up doing that. Never really did the sport fishing thing. You know, we come from a humble background. So it just wasn't really, you know, fishing was definitely fun and something you did for recreation, but it was also, you had to double dip. You know, it was one of those things, you get up in the morning after a rain and you get the night crawlers and get them in the bucket. And then, you know, you take the afternoon or take a whole day if it's a weekend, and you go to the lake and you don't leave, and, you know, until you got your bucket full. You refill that bucket.
So that's interesting. So many people that end up professional fishermen have like a story of being a fisherman, or kind of a story about their youth, you know, with being kind of passionate about it, and then maybe either refining it later. So what's your story? How did you end up fishing for a living?
So, like your shirt there, I believe Matt Best started Black Rifle.
Yeah, right.
Second
Evan Hafer.
Battalion, I believe. I don't know him. I think I've read about him. I think he did the one enlistment and did 4 deployments, because Rangers deploy a lot. So anyway, shout out to that dude, because I love seeing gunfighters getting out and just killing it. It's awesome, because you always hear about the more negative stories that, you know, guys go through, which gets me to answering your question. So I started fishing. I was we'll just say rough around the edges as a kid. You know, I wasn't a bad human by anything. I wasn't a thief or anything like that, but a little rough. You know, I had a little bit of a wild side, if you will. We'll leave that at that for right now. And we were partying one night, you know, doing it right. And it was 2005. I come from a town, you know, when I graduated high school, I think the county had about 40,000 people in it. So, you know the people you go to school with, stuff like that. Not super tiny, but small enough. Long story longer, that night we were partying, somebody turned on the news, which at that time was obviously just Iraq. And we had lost a good friend that I'd wrestled with and whatnot, David Owens. He was a Marine. He was going to the Marine Corps, serving his country. He was going to be out and be a state trooper. not the stereotypical ones that we think of. No offense. I love my law enforcement, but sometimes you get a stereotype of that personality that wants to do that at a young age. His heart was so in the right place. So we lost him. Had another buddy, Jeremy Horsley, get hurt, Army, and then Charlie Haggerty got hurt, also Army. And of course, we were kids. I was a hot 22 and, ready to do whatever, invincible, the whole 9 yards. And we all started talking this anti-war rhetoric, and we were getting in, and I started talking, and then I sat there and I just had this eureka moment. And I said, which probably had to do with the partying. And I was like, none of us have a clue. Like, back then I didn't trust media. So I didn't go to sleep that night, and I went straight to the recruiting station the next morning. I got a ride from a buddy that was sober, and
wow.
I went in and no exaggeration. I had painted it. I was a painter with my dad, and we had painted the recruiting station, so they knew me. I walked in there wearing nothing but a pair of shorts, sunglasses, and a straw hat. True story. No shirt, no shoes. They were like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "I want to go to Iraq." And he's like, "What?" He said, "No way." He's like, "You?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I want to go to Iraq." He's like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, "Fight." He's like, "All right." So, had to get a couple things cleared up. And about 4 weeks later, I was off to basic training. So I did a 15-month deployment to Iraq during the Sadr City uprising, which was absolutely awesome. And then I did 5 deployments with 1st Ranger Battalion. And my first Ranger mission that I was on, we lost 2 awesome dudes. Jason Dalkey and Eric Hario. But you can actually watch that on History Channel. It's called Objective Berlin. So I got medically discharged. Long story longer, Tom. I ended up getting medically discharged. I did a lot of cool things. I did the gunfighting, door kicking thing. I did the surveillance, counter surveillance thing. I had the beard out to here, all that fun stuff. I got medically discharged, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I just went through a divorce. I just went to a different selection course and didn't make it, and got a do not return, where I kind of went down and did the kick and chicken. They did a brain scan, found a spot on my brain, and they deadlined me. And it took me over a year to get out. And I had a toxic commander at the time. And it's not his fault. I'm my own man. But I just went down a downward spiral. If it wasn't for a dude named Brian Jensen, I don't know. I don't know if I'd have made it through that. But I ended up physically dependent on alcohol. I got out, wasn't taking care of myself. The house that I'm in now, it's you could barely see the floor because of trash.
Wow.
There's also a spot where the dog went to the bathroom, sorry, I'm going to get choked up.
It's all right, man. Take your time.
So, I was in a really bad place. All I was doing was drinking, wasn't paying bills or anything. I had a 510 credit score, which I didn't even know at the time because I didn't care. So one night I went and bought a high-end bottle of whiskey, and I was fishing at the time, just when I was sober enough to, and that was the only time I was happy. I was mating on a boat a little bit, and I enjoyed it a lot. Any other time, I just didn't want to be here. So one night I went and bought a bottle of Middleton. I still have that bottle. And yeah. And I came home and unlocked the door and started drinking. And I was going to make that ultimate selfish decision that night. So I got what I thought was the courage. I was crying and everything, kind of like I am now. I'm emotional, dude. I went to do it, and my dog Skip, I'm surprised he hasn't caused a ruckus yet. He's right there staring at me. He never takes his eyes off of me. It's crazy. He came over and put his paw on me, and I just broke down, and I'm like, what am I doing? About 4 or 5 weeks later, I quit drinking. I went cold turkey without medical attention. Anybody listening that is physically dependent, do not do that. That is incredibly dangerous. It almost killed me. It's really bad. You lose control of bodily functions. Your worst pain I've ever felt in my life.
Just from alcohol. There were no other drugs associated?
No. So there's only 2 drugs where solely the withdrawal can kill you. Huh. It's alcohol and heroin, opiates.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not. If people drink and handle it, and I'm all cool with it. Every single one of my friends at least has a beer every once in a while, besides maybe two. But somebody like me, it's really bad, especially when you can't control it. But yeah, it was bad. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't hold down water for 46 hours. My girlfriend at the time, who's still a good friend of mine, she was like, if you go 48 hours, I got to take you to the hospital. And we hit hour 46 and I could finally hold down water.
Wow.
So I got through that and I was like, that's not, your problem's not solved at all. There's a big, big, big mountain in front of you. So the next step was, how do I want to stay alive? I need a job. I applied for 53 jobs, got one call back to watch frozen fruit go down a conveyor belt for $14 an hour. That just wasn't for me. That wasn't going to be good for my mental health. So I started hitting up every dealer I knew, like going in and looking at boats. And I was like, I need to be a charter captain. I need to fish every day, but I'm broke. The only way you can fish every day while you're broke is be a charter captain.
Yeah.
So my mom, who's my best friend in the world, I'm big mama's boy. She co-signed for me, which was a struggle because she's in Virginia and I'm down here, and that's weird, I guess, on some things. I'm not a good adult. I don't know that stuff. And then Will of Custom Marine in Statesboro, Georgia, he hit me up, and sorry to draw this out. There's just
this is what we're doing.
Yeah, this is just wild, just reliving this right now with you. So I'd gone down to Custom Marine to look at boats, and I couldn't afford anything, man. Dude, I was desperate. And I don't I don't ask for things, what I'm saying? It's that hillbilly. You don't ask for help, and that's can be bad or good, So Will had hit me up being a good salesman. Hey buddy. Will had hit me up being a good salesman, was like, hey, emailed me and was like, hey, I saw you had stopped in, left your information. You never got back with us. Did we drop the ball? I was still trimmering from withdrawals. Like that went on for a hot minute. Like I was a mess. And I emailed him back. I was standing in my driveway and I was like, hey man, I appreciate you reaching out. I can't afford anything. Like I have terrible credit. Like I just laid it out. Like, dude, I'm not going to waste your time. Don't waste mine. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
He said, can I call you? I was like, oh, here we go. I was like, sure, dude, Yeah. And he called me and he was like, how are you going to book charters with a Virginia area code? I said, well, I've already bought another phone. I did everything out of order. I said, I already got another phone line. I said, with a local phone number. He was like, how are you going to market this? You're not from there. Charter fishing can be a very localized thing.
Oh, for sure.
He was like, what are you going to do? And I said, whatever it takes. I was like, I'm at a point where I'm going to die. And I wasn't trying to sell myself to him. It was just like, dude, like this isn't a game. Like this isn't tiddlywinks. This isn't anything. I'm going to die if I get on the water. So he wanted to meet with me and I went down and there was a Skeeter rep down there and they were trying to make a big push into saltwater down here. And they were like, yo, we're going to do everything we can to get you in a boat. Will worked his butt off to get me financed. And then my third offshore charter I ran, less experienced dude, God, I came back and I had a total on a 6-hour trip. I had 160 pounds of sheep's head in a 6-hour trip. I didn't realize I knew that was good, but I didn't know anything. I've only saltwater fished here. I couldn't afford charters and stuff growing up. I knew nothing, just what I'd learned, working the deck of a boat a little bit. And just running flat scared. I'm sleeping 2 hours a night, depression, PTSD, alcoholism, and just struggling, dude. I found this cleaning out my house and it just happens to be laying here. This is how I was marketing at first. My stepmom made me t-shirts and I had a brochure in here, dude. I was running 6-hour charters for $500, dude. In a little 22-foot boat, man. I mean, I was sitting in bars, like going through recovery, which I hang out in bars and stuff now. I'm fine. It's still there. You got to watch it. You always keep an eye on it, but I'm good. But I was sitting in bars every night handing out business cards. Like, I mean, you're talking a straight grind. I was taking people out. I'd have the flounder dialed in right next to the dock. I would take people out for $100 for 2 hours, dude. Just anything I could.
Anything,
man. So that third offshore charter I ran, I crushed this 160 pounds of sheep's head. And then Will had me come down, the same guy from Custom Marine. The dude is, I think he's a guardian angel, but very, very special to me. His whole family's amazing. Anyway, but he said, hey, man, you need to come down here. Blair Wiggins is going to be here.
Oh, cool.
Well, dude, I watched him overseas. That's who I watched when I was in Afghanistan. So like, I was like, dude, this is cool. I'd like to meet this guy. So I go down, I'm like, hey man, what's up? You know, I was like, I waited for everybody. And he's like, you the sheep's head guy? You know, I don't know if you met Blair, big old boy.
Oh yeah, I know Blair.
And then I'm a little old guy. And I said, bro, I was like, I've been running charters for 3 weeks. I said, I don't know what the heck I am. And he pulled up a picture and he was like, is this you? And he was like, and you'll see a pattern. I was wearing nothing but a pair of shorts standing there like this. I'm not a fan of clothes. And he goes, he's like, is this you? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, I'm going to put you on my show. I was like, what? He said, well, I can't get down till summer. And I said, well, you got to wait till next winter, spring though, because of the bite. Made it on a show, linked up with Starbright. I actually had a relapse with booze. And it was only a year, never ran a charter intoxicated, never got to the point to physically dependent. And I realized truly how big of an issue it was. I would be drinking at the bar. Okay. I'd get off charters, go straight to the bar. Right. And I would drink IPAs and tequila, chilled tequila. And the bartender, and they were awesome. They were not like, this isn't a diss to any bartenders because they were very cool about me. And then once they realized that there was probably a problem, but they would be like, you want another round? In my head, I'm like, no, I'm good. But I'd be like, yep. I would do that 5 or 6 more times. That's 12 drinks.
Yeah.
Then I'd go home, go to sleep, wake up, go to charters. I mean, it was, and then I was like, okay, this ain't cool, you know? So I quit again. And this time, Tom, a clarity like I can't explain. And then things took off. And then I realized that we needed to do something for gunfighters. So I was taking out boys I knew, even if they just wanted to get on the water. But dudes, no matter what it was, they'd call me to talk about stuff because I'm open about my stuff. And it really took off because WTOC, Andrew Gordon, they hit me up to do a charter special. And I was like, yeah, you can do it, but I want to talk about PTSD. I woke up after that story aired to 296 Facebook notifications.
Really?
Oh, dude, I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what I'm doing. People were calling to try to give me money. And I'm like, I don't want your money. They're like, do you have a nonprofit? I'm like, no, why would I have a nonprofit? They're like, well, you're taking vets fishing. I'm like, so what do I need? You know, that's just how ignorant I was. You know, I have the mentality, this needs done. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do it. So a gentleman spoke with me on the phone. He said, do you know anybody? He said, no disrespect, that's smarter than you on business. I said, thank God I do. It's actually the guy who first taught me how to throw a popping cork, Mike Weathers. So I called Mike. He sat down with me and started squaring stuff away. Well, then I just hit another gear. I just started building, man. Started marketing myself, getting with Starbright. And I mean, it feels like I'm just moved by something else. Like, it's weird. So I walked back into Will's office one day and I was like, I need to upgrade boats. And he was like, what do you mean? He's like, you want to get like 25, 26? I said, no, I need about like 30, 35. He was like, Jimmy, man, he goes, dude, your credits can't be that good yet. No offense. You know, everybody's so nice to me, but I like it. I like honesty and I like it raw. So he was like, dude, and I was like, I said, Will, are you going to help me? I said, are you going to make me do this on my own? He said, come in and sit down. Down to the Miami boat show I went, talked to a few different places and ended up going with a sportsman. And man, I got in that boat. And when you go, so I had an 18-foot Carolina skiff was my first boat. And I had the 22-foot Skeeter Bay boat. Now I'm in a 31-foot sportsman. So that jump, it was, I mean, I'm a kid in a candy shop. I've had it for a year and a half. I'm a kid in a candy shop. Like I have, to me, unlimited capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was making 50-mile runs, not on charters, by myself, fun fishing and filming and stuff. I say filming, just making fun YouTube videos, you know. I was going 50 miles out by myself in that 22-foot skeeter on a regular basis. So now I got a 30-foot boat and I've got 2 engines. It's come on, you know, I can do anything I want. So then, you know, with the nonprofit, you know, I'm taking guys out, you know, once again, just because dudes come out and maybe they're not going through anything, I'll hit up a buddy that I used to work with that's still in Ranger Battalion and be like, hey, send me 2 guys that want a day on the water, that would appreciate a day on the water, that maybe they worked a little extra hard. Maybe something had happened at home. I don't know. And our nonprofit, we'll do other things on the side to help people out. We keep it very small. We fund it ourselves, me, Starbright, and two other individuals that are anonymous. Because I learned when you try to bring people in, things can get messed up. So we do it all ourselves. So one day I had a guy come with me and he was like, hey man, I'm, you know, he's like, he got blown up twice in one night. Okay. He got hit with a grenade and, knocked. Sorry, we laugh at this stuff. He laughs at it with it. He was here. He's coming over later to help me clean out the yard. As soon as this is done, he'll be here. But he got hit with a frag. It knocked him unconscious. He came to, and they had cut his breeches, his pants up the seams, you know, to make sure the shrapnel didn't get any femoral and all that. Doc was like, yo, bro, you're good. Well, you know, we call it bopped. He was bopped. You know, he had a concussion. Well, bopped Ranger, it's almost like drunk Ranger. Like, I can still fight, you know? So he tucks his pant legs into his pants and goes into the compound and starts fighting. So he's in there slugging it out. Then he eats the overpressure from another grenade and just, boop, you know, scrambled his brain piece there. So long story longer, he gets shipped back, or he goes back home, this, that, and the other. Just a mess, stuttering, blah, blah, blah. Then one night, like 2 months later, he has a stroke, wakes up, calls his wife. She's a nurse. He's, you know, sick, vomiting, she's like, you need to go to the hospital. He's like, no. He got there. They didn't even want to do a stroke test on him because he's 27 at the time, I think. He's 29 now. I think he was 27 at the time.
He's very young for a stroke.
He's good.
Right.
And his wife, you know, kind of was like, you going to do it, boss? Well, they came running back out, emergency surgery, brain bleed. It was going to kill him. Boom, drill a hole in his head, right, to relieve the pressure, put a plate on it. He comes out of it, can't talk, can't do math, can't solve common problems, basically. He could walk.
Wow.
Right? So this dude, and you got to think about this. This guy, a gunfighter, you've obviously had dealings with us. And this isn't a thing. Right. It's an apex predator, man. We are apex predators. There is nothing else on land more lethal than a gunfighter. It's just the facts of life. So when you're up here, you're at your peak. You're at the pinnacle, man. At the top of your game. I mean, you're an Army Ranger, for God's sake. Or even if you're not a Ranger, you're slugging it out with the enemy. It's the ultimate competition. Nothing bigger. And then boom, in a flash, you can't talk.
Wow.
You can't solve a common problem. You can't do math. If you're somebody like me, you can't physically do what you did anymore. You don't remember where you parked your car. So you go from maybe running a program overseas where it's stuff they, no kidding, make movies about and write books about. And you're doing this in your 20s, like it's no big deal. You go from that to nothing.
Yeah.
You're gone. Your purpose is gone.
Right.
You go from being top of the top, best of the best, to just bottom of the barrel. And people don't understand. That is hard.
Super hard.
That is a hard fall.
But it's something that seems to be extremely hard. But, you know, like when you say people don't understand, they don't understand because they couldn't possibly understand. And so one of the questions that I wanted to ask, and one of the places I wanted to go with this today is like, there's so many people that don't understand. They have empathy for this people like you just described, this whole story. They want to do something. But they don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to help. What would your suggestion or advice be to somebody that, like myself, I have tremendous respect for the military. I think that it's incredible. And what you guys do is absolutely amazing. And when you see someone that has sacrificed like that and given everything, and then they're really having a hard time, and you want to help, but you don't know how, like, what do you say to that?
That's the $1 million question, right?
Yeah, it is. Because there's so many people that want to.
That's tough, man. I've been through it, but my buddy Hunter, his experience is different than mine. He's getting ready to start running charters. Then there's guys I know. It's almost okay. It's almost like it's basically like anything else, man. You're not going to be able to help until the person wants help.
Yeah, for sure.
As simple as that sounds. And you're also dealing with an extremely aggressive personality. Right. You're not dealing with, even if they're down, it's still, they're an animal that's fight or flight all the time. And it's, they're going to lash out. They're going to do this. If they're not ready, they're not ready. As far as helping, and I am speaking strictly my opinions on gunfighters. I obviously have a huge respect for all veterans, regardless of their job. The thing is I don't understand. I cannot relate to what other people go through and what trauma is to them. Trauma to you and I are probably maybe a little different. Just the same with everybody else. We're all human. So I can relate more directly to the gunfighter because I've been in that position. As far as helping them, give them tools. You got to remember, the comparison I always make is the apex predator back in the day was the T-Rex. We've all seen Jurassic Park, right? Yeah. Where the doctor, when they drop the goat in, right, and it's dark, and the doctor's like, man, T-Rex doesn't want to be fed. He wants to hunt. Yeah. Well, dude, we're no different. I mean, everybody talks about peace and tranquility with fishing. I feel close to God when I'm fishing. I feel the peace sometimes. It's not about that for me. It is about developing a pattern of life like we did in the military, exploiting a weakness in that pattern, initiating an ambush, and capture or killing. That's why I do it. So in order to help, you got to help. You got to try to remember that's what you're dealing with for the most part. It might be peaceful to us, but our peaceful is different than other people's.
But what it's also doing for you is it's giving you a new purpose. Like you had like when you're in the military, everything is very, very organized. There is you're very focused, right? You're very focused on whatever this is. You have a mission. This is what you're going to accomplish. That's your focus. When you get out of that, even if you're not injured, a lot of people have a hard time just kind of drifting along. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, oh, we'll go get a job. Well, I don't know there's no purpose there. How do you suggest that people find their purpose when they're out of the military?
That's a much easier question than folks how to help, man. I tell guys, and actually there's people in the service and programs that certain part of the service have made to try to help guys transition, which are failing, in my opinion. I know numerous guys that failed. I just wish they would work on it instead of staying in their box. Do what makes you happy. That sounds so simple. If you've got to get a quote unquote 9 to 5 punch in a time clock to make ends meet, and if basket weaving makes you happy, come home and start basket weaving. It's not going to be easy. People hear when I say do what makes you happy, and they think it's just like, oh, well, fishing made Jimmy happy and he went out and fished and then all this stuff happened. That's not the case. You just heard the story, that's not how it was. I mean, there was turned down on loans. I mean, I collapsed in the house one time because I thought it was over, and me not getting a boat, man, my brain, I was going to die. So do what makes you happy, go through a grind if you have to, but if you keep pushing and you put the same intensity and the same work ethic forth as we did when we were slinging lead across the pond there, you're going to succeed. And, it's one thing, Greg of Starbright, he's like a brother to me, man. He's just, the dude is so incredibly helpful. It's one thing he explains to me. We talk about winning and success, because it was one thing when I was going almost too hard. It was, people be like, well, what do you want, Jimmy? Or you don't sleep. You don't stop working. There's a whiteboard completely covered under this. It just never stops. And I'm like, I just want to win. And they're like, at what? And I was like, I don't know. And it's tough. Everybody's win is different. I've learned that mine is just being happy and doing what I love. And typically, if I'm just doing what I love that makes me happy, all these other good things happen. I'm trying to create job for vets. We said we were doing that last year. We've already created a charter captain. He's going to have a brand new sportsman in the water here in a few weeks, or about a month, here in March. I mean, the dude that couldn't talk 2 years ago is going to be running charters. That's winning.
Yeah. Because
he's going to love that job. And I've got it set up where he's going to make a good living for a charter captain, as he should, because we're the high. We hold a high standard. We use high quality, equipment, gear, boats, and we take the same intensity and not an anger, hate filled intensity, not a loud. Well, I get loud, but we take the same intensity we had on the battlefield, executing these ranger missions, if you will, and we bring it. And you can't. That's who you want to be on a boat with.
Yeah.
So if these guys go out and just do what makes you happy, when you feel lost, man, I still go through dark stuff. I ain't going to lie to you, brother. I wake up about 4:30 every morning. I sat right over there. I sleep in a couch. For some reason, I struggle sleeping in a bed. By the end of next week, my goal is to start sleeping in my bed. If I'm not with my boss lady, that's what I call my girl, or if I'm on the road, I can sleep in a bed, but I don't understand, dude, just certain things that are strange. I was over there at 6 a.m. I just sat there hugging my dog, just crying my eyes out. I don't know why, dude. I mean, I kind of know why. My head was going to some places, but just because things are good, and that's another thing I think people need to understand, guys going through this like myself and people around them, there's always going to be the darkness, man. I don't think it ever completely goes away. It's just what you do with it. Yeah. And I look at it as a blessing. It gave us a different perspective. I come back here. I call what we live in now an oasis. This isn't real life. I know things kind of suck right now in the political climate and the social climate. I hate to sound like that old grumpy veteran or something, but it's like, but real talk, dude, it's not that bad. There's things that need worked on. Don't get me wrong, but my gosh, man, this place is still. I mean, people are like, oh, the world's coming down around us. Maybe it is a little bit, but we're talking on computers. You got a beautiful redfish mount behind you, all this beautiful art on your wall. I'm a dude, who maybe by the books on paper probably shouldn't be where I'm at doing what I'm doing. And look where I'm sitting. That's a win. And it just goes back to finding that daily win, I think, for guys. If that daily not drinking, don't drink.
How much of your happiness, like what you just said, is like overwhelming gratitude for what you have, whatever that is, right? How much of that do you contribute to your happiness? Like, as opposed to, thinking that things are really bad. I mean, that's a big mind shift of, things are really bad. I'm not a gunfighter anymore. I'm not this. I don't have a purpose. To, I'm just super thankful to be living in this oasis, man. I love this. Like, and how do you get from one place to another? Because you've been in both places. And that's a tough one, man. I mean, it really is. But once you get to the other side, you're looking back and you're like, man, that other way of thinking was killing me. Like it's killing me. And living in gratitude and living in just makes me happy and helping other people. And how much do you kind of, think about that, or do you ever think about that you just have a total positive and negative mindset there where you are today, maybe where you were a long time ago, or maybe not that way?
Tom, I'm not going to lie, man. I am a very happy. I try to be positive, dude. I don't hide it. I put it all over social media and stuff. suffer from depression. I don't, I tried some of the government drugs for it and they don't do well for me. So I just deal with it on my own. One thing though, with the staying positive, cause I got a lot of things going on at once, we all do, trying to do stuff for, my house was a mess and you're growing a business. You have a nonprofit, you're bringing this guy in that you're booking charters for, you got a couple sponsors and you want to make sure you're doing the right thing for them because they're doing the right thing for you. You have all of this going on and it's hard. And, you have stressors there. Hunter, the guy that I've told you about, come work for me that had the stroke and all this stuff, the miracle man, he'll look at me and it just grounds you. And he's like, what do you got to be mad about? We're living on stolen time. He was like, we're not supposed to be here. He was like, and a lot of dudes like us, I'm speaking for a few of me and my buddies. I didn't think I'd make it to 30. You make it to 30 and you're like, okay. Mm-hmm. And it's like, now it is. And it really puts it in perspective. We're living on stolen. We're not, my goodness. Everybody's got the stories and stuff, but between close calls with IEDs, grenades, not even, one, directly affecting you where you have to go get medical attention. In Salter City, dude, I had a sniper take 2 shots at me. One, he missed by a good shot, and the other good ways, about 18 inches, which probably doesn't sound like a lot, but
yeah, it does. It's pretty close.
Yeah, it was close. But then the second shot he took at me, so we went and started clearing. I was on a rooftop, and the second shot he took at me was about 10 inches from my face. It was less than a foot. When it hit the wall, pieces hit me of the mud, hit me in the face. But all of that stuff, every single one of us, whether, you have injuries or not, every single gunfighter has looked death in the face a lot. And that can bring on some darkness, I think. Yeah. And it's really hard because it's almost like build your tolerance to adrenaline and that serotonin and stuff that you need, that we all need. But if you really look at it, like you're living on stolen, like you're not supposed to be here. This is awesome. So you might as well just live it while you're here. We're living on stolen time and we get to fish pretty much every day. I fish over 200 days a year, man. I put 1,000 hours plus on my boat every year on the motors.
That's awesome. So what you've created here, is it mostly charters or mostly your nonprofit that you're taking other people fishing now? How much time is devoted out of those 200 days? How do you split that up?
Well, so right now this year I did something a little different. I ran all my charters in the spring and summer, and then November came. And I was feeling, I had a couple of, we all have them. There was a couple of trips there, but I have awesome clients typically. And there was a few trips there in a short time that I just wasn't feeling it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I can be impulsive. I turned around and looked at Hunter on the last trip we ran. And I was like, you good on money through the winter? And he was like, yeah. I was like, you don't need tips right now? And he's like, no. And he was like, why? I was like, we're shutting it down. He was like, what? And then I just started bringing every veteran I could. So we were doing that about twice a week there. And that stopped because we took the boat off the water to get, the bottom paint, Garmin's replaced to get them warrantied. And then, we wrapped. But up until there, the week of January 18th, we were taking guys every week, usually twice a week. And then we'll start running charters again here in March. So as soon as I get the boat back, we'll start that back. And when I'm starting off, I'm going to do a veteran trip once a week and then charters the rest. And then once the busy season really gets around, since we fund everything ourselves, I'll be just banging out as many charters as I can. And as long as everything, makes sense money wise, I'll shut it back down in November and start taking the boys all the time again.
So if you could, would you just take veterans all the time?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Well, why don't you? You keep going back to this, we fund it all ourselves and you want it to remain small, but what's the hesitation there? Why wouldn't you allow other people to help you with this? I mean, this is one of those places where people want to help. People that listen to this are going to be like, man, that sounds awesome. First of all, there's I get hit up with all kinds of things for veterans, which I listen to every time, but how do you know? Like, and how do you know what's going on with these different programs? And there's so many of them, and rarely is one run by someone like you that you're like, okay, like this guy of anyone gets it. This guy is going to be able to really make some good. So what's the hesitation with allowing people to help, even if it was on an anonymous basis?
I'm going to be honest. If you haven't figured out, I'm a pretty straight shooter. I have huge trust issues, personally. I do everything I can to not let my personal shortcomings that I work on every day as a man to get in the way of the business. And the reason when I say the business, I also mean the nonprofit. One thing is, Tom, from the get-go, I have said this thing will not be corruptible and will not be for anybody to make money. So the way I want it done is I'll never take a penny from it. To be honest with you, there's been no money taken out of the nonprofit in over 12 months. So any money that goes in there has stayed in there, and I've paid for everything out of my pocket, which is that I'm fine with. Also, not taking anything from the nonprofit, I wouldn't be able to fund the business and everything else if I did it a lot more. So, and for me, in my eyes, one of the long-term helps, my goal is to create 10 jobs, really 10 careers. Does that necessarily mean only charter captains? Not necessarily. I'm helping a guy kind of set up, and I've got to be vague, a business that could employ gunfighters on a part-time basis, but a substantial income for part-time. So, I've got I'm spread pretty thin. And these sound like excuses, but at the end of the day, it really is. If I stop running these charters and building the for-profit side, that's going to slow down on creating jobs. So what I'm hoping is that's a huge focus of mine. The nonprofit is right now is pretty much just getting gunfighters on the water. Every once in a while we run into something or someone that needs some individual attention, and that's what we have funds for. And once again, usually I can just make a phone call and somebody takes care of things. I am not opposed. I mean, I have a donation site set up and all of that. And we also ran into, when I first set up the donation site and started pushing it, people would be like, well, I donated $50. Do I get 10% off of a charter? And I'm like, no, no, man. So I just kind of was like, you know what? I get hard-headed, man. I told you I'm stubborn. I have trust issues. I've refunded people's money before, I'll be honest, because you can tell there's an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
When there's ever an ulterior motive, I'm just like, you're good. You can't. And I mean, and that's another unique thing about me, dude. I look at money as a tool. I've been rock bottom, bro, like bottom, almost losing the house, the whole 9 yards, scraping for money. And I'm not wealthy by any means, but I'm nowhere near rock bottom right now. The thing is, though, is I don't value money like other people do. I look at it as a tool I need to do good, and to do things that I want to do and make problems go away.
Well, it could, you could be getting a lot of your gratitude and your happiness from actually giving. Like, you're giving your time, you're giving your money, you're giving your resources to take these people, and it is a sacrifice for you. But that may be the secret sauce, is that, if all the gas money was paid for and everything else was paid for, you're just giving your time and your money. There's not like a real financial sacrifice there, but you're making that financial sacrifice. You're choosing to make it, and it's more rewarding to you. And you know what? Right now, man, it's like, whatever it is, keep doing it, man, because it's obviously working for you.
Well, and it's something else, Tom. I'm not opposed to something. If somebody like yourself that, without meeting you just in this conversation, I call people like you true believers. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it's an intense thing we're dealing with as well.
Yeah, right.
So that being said, like if people have suggestions, I'm willing to listen. One of my best friends and his brother had a real rough deployment, and he was a medic. But he owns a couple daycares here. Andy Lipsky, dude, is a huge help with everything, personal level, everything. But he's kind of putting in my ears because he's kind of on the same page you are, like, hey man, if you get it down to just doing your time, the nonprofit can pay, you're running 10 veteran trips a month. Well, take that percentage and, it goes to a percentage of dockage. It goes to your fuel. Right. And he was like, because if it is a time thing, it's not a big deal. So honestly, Tom, I am open to that.
Well, I mean, it's one thing, like, if you're using this to really, it's benefiting your life, and you are getting, you're just getting tremendous energy from giving, and that's great. A lot of people do, man. Like when you help someone else at your darkest moment, if you help somebody else, you're going to feel better yourself. And there's that, but then there's also, man, look at what you're doing for some of these people that you're taking out. Maybe you probably changed some people's lives by just showing them what fishing's all about, or what this life could be. And you're creating careers, and you're creating jobs. So there is also the responsibility there of, how do I make this sustainable so that I can continue to do it? How do I make it so that I can help more people than I ever imagined I could help? And if it becomes just such a financial drain on you that you're like, man, I can only do one trip a month. Like, is that really to your mission? Like, maybe it is. I don't know.
I see exactly what you're saying. And I wholeheartedly agree. So, and once again, plan shift, right? You got to be able to adapt on the battlefield, if you will. So my game plan, as far as helping them, helping people, one, I like to run everything like a special operations unit. Okay. I like small and efficient. Mm-hmm. I don't like mass blasting things and having limited impact. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that being said, in my eyes, and once again, everything changes. But when we started this whole thing a year and change ago, like got serious about the nonprofit, because I actually almost semi-retired from chartering and did this almost full time. Mm-hmm. So we're all over the place with it. But my idea was to make the for-profit and when I say a select few, it's not that the door is closed.
Right.
If somebody comes and it's genuine and they're not trying to do any ulterior motives, come on, man. We're a growing family and we're down for that. The door is not closed. I don't want it to sound like that. But my idea is to make the for-profit profitable enough to where if there is not a gunfighter that would want to take it on, because let's be real, not everybody wants to run a business and do all the stuff that it takes, and I don't blame them. It sucks. I like it, but I like a certain kind of stress. But if I can't pass it off to one of those guys, then it needs to be profitable enough that a real businessman can come in. Because if you have a real businessman, if you make it profitable enough that you can sell your company to a real businessman, you can hire a fisherman. I'm not knocking those fishermen, but there's two different things. I know some epic fishermen that should still be charter captains and are not because of business. If you can get your for-profit profitable enough to sell to a true businessman, and in that clause, you create a clause that says, hey, you have to keep the nonprofit going. If it snowballs and it slowly grows into something that is enough money is coming around into it, then you can hire a veteran and pay him a decent salary to run the nonprofit. Mm-hmm. So this thing, and I'm all for growth, but my idea to be able to help as long as possible without the sounds so dramatic, without the corruption, if you will, without people getting involved. And all of a sudden it just turns into taking people fishing and photo ops. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's not what I wanted. And I just, for me, for the time being, the slow growth, developing the for-profit, and then eventually creating more jobs within the nonprofit. Just because I won't take money from it doesn't mean long-term that I don't want it set up to where I can have a person or two making money off of it.
Sure.
And not in a malicious way. That would be their job.
Yeah, no, it has to be. And I mean, that's how nonprofits are sustainable and continue to go. And plenty of nonprofits have lots of corruption in them, and you can run yours however you want. You just got to stay focused on looking at it and making sure that that's what happens. But I also want to talk about great white sharks. So I'm fascinated with sharks. I'm fascinated with all kinds of sharks. I've never seen a great white. I've never even seen one. And I mean, there's some in the Keys, and some people see them, and it's becoming more frequent. I think that people see them, or maybe it's just that more people have cell phones in their pocket, and when one shows up, it's not that that big of a stretch to actually get footage of it. And then you would also see, people would say, man, there's this big shark. I don't know what it was, but it was the biggest shark I've ever seen. And it came in and it ate this other shark that we were catching, or it ate, a sailfish, or it ate something else. I don't know what that thing was. Well, now you know what it is, because there's 3 minutes of video from the tower, and it's absolutely a great white shark. So, and then you see all the great work that OSearch has done, and there you can see where these things have tracked through the Keys, and certainly in your area, man, they are there. But you caught one, right?
Yeah. We lucked out, man. I was out there with the Palmetto State Armory crew. I love those guys in there, but had them guys out on the boat, and we were out there, and we said, hey man, and that's actually what got Hunter on. And this is the second one we've caught. And he, which was just a freak thing with Hunter. This was obviously a freak thing. And we were out there just catching fish. And we were like, hey man, let's see if we can, I want to see a thresher. I've seen a thresher before. Yeah. I swear it was a thresher. I've got my buddy Andy that I told you about, says that it wasn't a thresher. So if I get a wild hair in colder water, I throw a bait out because I'm going to show him a thresher before I die. Mm-hmm. You know how it gets when you get in a little competition. So we were out there messing around, and we're overrun with the snapper up over here, the American red. So we're sitting there, and it was like, okay, let's see if we can catch something a little bit bigger than a snapper, right? And of course, in the back of my head, I'm like, come on, thresher, but really probably going to be a sandbar or something like that. Throw the leader out, strap a bonita to it, throw it out there, put a sinker on it, shoot it to the bottom. And that thing, when it started taking off, I was like, and it dropped the bait, and then it came back, and I was like, that's weird. Then I picked it up again, went tight, dropped the bait again. And I was like, okay, came back. And I was like, this thing ain't scared. Whatever this is, it's not scared. And then in the video, you can see it goes up to the bow. And that's when I flip out, and I thought he dropped it, and he was just swimming back to us. And you can kind of, if you're a fisherman and you're watching me reel on the bow with that 50 wide, you can kind of look at it and be like, and you can kind of see Hunter goes like this, like, oh no. And then you kind of see me like, I'm just blowed. I'm like, and then you kind of see me because I'm looking, and I remember seeing the line go like this. And I was like, hold on now, hold on. And then once we realized it was white, we obviously put the heat to it to, get the joker next to the boat, because they're protected, and to get the hook out of it. And we didn't get the hook out because I couldn't see it, and I didn't want to. I got a Shark D hooker, one of the big ones. I don't fish for the hook, man. That's bad for that fish. But it was wild, man. I mean, we saw it come up to the surface, and just that feeling. It was, oh my gosh. Ugh. And when it circled around, and I actually got to touch it, I got to look in this animal's eyes, and it was just kind of like, what has this shark been through? It's like us. It's an apex predator, and that shark, it eats its siblings in the womb. Then it's thrown into the world by itself to survive. Almost like when a gunfighter's in the darkness and he feels like he's all by himself and this, that, and the other. And you're just swimming and attacking and fighting and doing everything you can to be a big, strong shark. And if you grow into a big, strong, great white, you're scarred up from battle. But you've made it. You made it on your own. And you're the king of the ocean.
Yeah.
Nothing will mess with you. So there's just that huge connection there. And then just touching that animal was unbelievable. And it's funny. I'm like scared to death to get in the water. Like I don't get in the water at all. Like I'll get in at the beach or whatever, but I won't dive. I don't get in offshore. I don't play with that. I ain't no Navy SEAL, not doing it. So just that, I mean, I wanted to get in the water with it. I mean,
Did you?
It was hit. No, God, no.
I was thinking I didn't see that part of the video.
Man. But just I'm looking at it. It's on my screensaver right here. That gosh. But it was just nothing like I've ever experienced. It's so hard to even describe, except for that connection that I felt with that animal. It's just, it's magic.
That's super cool. The one that I saw, I don't know which one of the videos I watched. I don't know if you have videos of both the ones you've caught, but the one, it didn't look like the biggest great white shark. It was kind of a medium sized one, right?
It's a little guy. It's juvenile.
Kind of. I didn't want no disrespect. I'm just saying I've caught sharks that were the same size as the ones that of that great white, like a big bull shark or a big, even a big lemon or something like that could be in that same size. Maybe like it was probably like what, 300 pounds, 250, 300 pounds. No,
it was closer to 5.
Okay. So 5.
It was not big. It was about 8 feet, which is an
8 footer, and they're thicker and bigger. How does that shark, an 8 foot great white, and I wanted to ask this because I don't see people catch them that size where you can compare them to another shark that you've caught. So if you've caught a bull shark, in similar size, and you caught or any kind of shark of similar size, what was the fight like? Does a great white shark fight harder than a bull shark? A lot harder.
So when you put heat to them, they don't stop. They keep going. I've hooked one full size adult. She was about 15 feet.
Wow.
Which Google says is over a 2,000 pound fish. Mm-hmm. And there's like a clip on YouTube of it jumping out of the water.
Wow.
Yeah. I was by myself, 4 foot seas, backing down. Like it was like, and that's not how it is when you're watching a video. If you see it, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's not a nice ocean.
Yeah. No.
But it was wild. And I was just out there by myself catching bull reds, minding my business, and because it was cold, it was snotty, it was a little rainy. And I was like, I'm going to throw this big bait out the back. And next thing you know, I look over and I see a fin like circling a piece of cardboard. And I'm like, what is that? I thought maybe I knew what it was. Yeah. I mean, this dorsal, it was, and the tail wasn't out of the water. Wow. So you know how big a shark is when you see that much of the dorsal and no tail. So I was like, oh my gosh. Biggest shark I'd ever caught before that was about 13-foot tiger shark. Mm-hmm. Okay. We had residents out there, we'd pull them up and catch Kobe off of them and all that stuff. I fought that fish for 2 hours and 24 minutes. I'm convinced she was feeding when I had her hooked up.
Really?
Because she would go I'm not exaggerating.
Those big redfish.
She would go back. So 2.5 hour fight, great white shark, fully locked out on a pin 50 wide, 100% locked out for over 2 hours. That fish would run as long and as far and as fast as it wanted. And I'm not exaggerating. Wow. I got clips of it still. I kept all the raw footage of it. And it was, I think I got a clip I made on YouTube. But the reason I think she was feeding is that she would go back once again, 2.5 hour fight. You move 860 some odd feet. So she would make a run, and she came all the way out of the water once, Shark Week style, came out of the water. Wow. You see the tail splash the water. It was like 200 meters away on a GoPro. Once again, a fisherman, you can look at it. You'll be like, other people I think look at it and they're like, yeah, it's a big animal. I was like, cause we don't understand the camera thing. You're like, oh my God, that is big. So, but she would run And then all of a sudden there'd be head shakes. Now imagine, and throw fisherman exaggeration in there. Say she was 12 feet. I've never seen anything this wide. Yeah. It was the biggest animal I've ever seen in my life. So you can imagine the head shakes. So the head shake, this unlimited class rod, well, that's a rod I was using, was an unlimited class, would go fully bent over. It broke the gunnel on my boat, the inlay.
Wow.
Yeah, because she was locked out. I got it on film, and she raises the gunnel.
Wow.
That's no BS. Like fiberglass popping, whole 9 yards. I mean, and it's obviously a well-made boat. It's, 2020. It's not an old boat. And so that's how powerful they are. And that the rod would just completely bend and then come slide so violent. And I mean, to the point where you're fighting the fish and you're just like, because if something breaks, it's going to hurt you.
Yeah, that's how it is with the big hammerheads too. Like we catch the big hammerheads, and they have such a big head shake that the rod goes completely slack and then completely bent, and it'll pull you right out of the boat. You got to be really super careful.
Oh, and imagine that just on steroids, and that's what it was. And then the reason I think she was feeding is, a seconds, a minute, whatever it was. You know how time is when you're doing something like that. The birds would be feeding on top of the water.
Oh,
so what else is she doing?
Right.
And that wasn't
just
a one-time
maybe coughing
thing.
Stuff up. Maybe could be. I mean, a lot of times that's why you catch more fish. Like action brings more action. Like when you're bringing fish up, they start coughing up everything. The other fish come in and they start eating that. It's almost like a chum bag, But the best video that I've seen of a shark about that same size is there's a pretty legendary captain in the Keys. His name's Paul Ross, and his son is also named Paul Ross, and he's both of them are really good. But Paul Ross Sr. has a boat called the Relentless, and you can get on his Instagram and scroll back a couple of weeks, and they're bringing in a big kingfish or a wahoo. I think it's a kingfish, and man, this thing just comes right under the riggers, and he's shooting it from the tower. And man, you can see that thing so well. And it's as long as other sharks that you've seen, but this thing is so wide. It is just so big and wide. And it takes a big swipe at this kingfish. And they're actually kind of like jerking it like a surface lure, right? They're like, make it move. And they start pulling it. And it comes up, and it just pulls this big wave with it and comes right to the side of the boat. But the light is perfect, and you can see it in the water. A lot of videos are like, they're shot into the glare, and you're like, I think I see what this one, it is as clear as a bell. And that's happened more and more in the Keys. And I know it's happening so much in your area, because I see this other Instagram account that I follow, and he's a little north of you, I think, but they catch a lot of them, man. All kinds of big sharks up there, but they do get the great whites, and that's an animal that I'd love to see. I don't necessarily have to catch it myself, but I'd like to see one like that.
Well,
like
man,
really
if you
close.
we can't go out there and try to catch them, and honestly, I wouldn't even know how to target them because they're tricky animals. You're more than welcome to come up here and fish with us, brother. I would love to me and Hunter will come out with you, and we'll bring a ranger buddy or two with us, and come on up, man.
Sounds fun. Even for the big redfish. I don't know if I haven't done any offshore fishing in your area. Inshore for the redfish a little bit. But we had a redfish tournament in Georgia somewhere, and then certainly fished in South Carolina. In the high tide grass marsh kind of thing where you wade around. That's pretty sweet. I like that. But I've never done any offshore fishing there. I don't know.
Well, and oddly enough, just that winter time when those big sharks show up, you also that's your best time on the reefs for the bull reds.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I'd like to try that. So where are you? You're Tybee Island?
I live on Wilmington Island, which is Savannah. Uh-huh. So I used to work my boat used to be on Tybee. Now it's on the next island in. It's 2 bridges. It's a couple miles. Yeah. So I'm Wilmington Island. I'm 2 miles from my boat ramp. But if you're in Savannah or Tybee Island, they're 20 minutes apart. So we're kind of in the middle, little closer to Tybee.
Nice.
So that's where we're out of, man. And like I said, dude, if you want to come up and try the bull reds, and we'll throw out a big bait for fun. We love taking our light tackle out there on those wrecks and just chasing those bulls. I mean, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun, man. That'd be fun. Well, so where do you see your see your program in the next couple of years? What do you think? If you were to blue sky it, what would you think? You get the 10 jobs by then, or are we moving slower?
No, I mean, I'd like to think yes. The job part is hard. And we're also working on, like, with people with Custom Marine, like they're looking for a mechanic lead, and they have an awesome climate controlled shop that's brand new that they're building. And they want, Will, he was like, find me a Jimmy. So we're trying that. So 2 years, really my big focus right now is make sure Hunter it gets established and that goes smoothly. You know what I'm saying? That's my biggest responsibility right now. And then once we prove that works, hopefully we can bring on another guy as a mate and continue to grow on that end. As far as the nonprofit, I mean, if you come up, I'm sure this isn't going to be the last time we talk, and I hope you do come up and fish. It'll be a good time, brother. Yeah. I'd like to introduce you to some of these just complete rock stars that I know that most people don't get to meet. You know?
That'd be awesome.
I was an average ranger on best day, but these guys that I'm surrounded by are epic. So, but yeah, man, I just lost my train of thought thinking about my one buddy who lives around the corner. We were saying the Bull Reds coming up for that.
Yeah. And then 2 years. Yeah, 2 years.
Nonprofit wise, in 2 years, I definitely want to have it organized to the point to where I have a set number of trips. I don't have a number in my head yet. So, and also, I'm hoping this happens in the fall. I wasn't going to talk about it till I figured out more about it. So next fall, what I really want to do, and I want to do it and film it for the YouTube channel, is I'd like to, and if we get different veterans in different locations, that's cool. But next fall or next winter, I want to go on the road for like 10 days, not drag my boat, maybe get charters, maybe drag an inshore boat, or, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But the hit places, like I want to fish Louisiana. Like I'm going to the outer banks to tuna fish here in a week or two. And I'm taking a guy or two up with me to that, if they can shake free. That was kind of one of those, you have to go this day, here's the money, so we'll see if that works out. But I want to really do, and I've talked to Greg from Starbright about it, like hit like Louisiana, the west coast of Florida, the Keys, and ended up here. Do we start in Savannah and then, hit Cocoa Beach and then hit Lauderdale / the Keys? I try a Bimini trip, but I want to start bringing some of these gunfighters on stuff like that. Like I want to do cool stuff, but I want these guys to come up. I want to watch them do cool stuff. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I still haven't caught a tarpon. I've taken my buddy if you ever seen Black Hawk Down, there's a guy who gets shot in the radio. Yeah. That guy who actually got shot in the radio is one of my best friends. Wow. He's actually getting his captain's license to help up at what is the big lake in Georgia? Sinclair, maybe? I think he lives on Lake Sinclair.
Okay.
And but he's going to start, he's got a pontoon and stuff. He's not really on the fishing side of things. We're getting him linked up with a guide that's a veteran up there though. Right. Mm-hmm. So the veteran's going to hopefully take care of some of the fishing things and we'll cover his expenses. And then my buddy can take out kids, whole families. He's got the Magma grill on the boat, like the giant Mac Daddy one. And he can do the beach stuff, obviously drop a bait to the bottom, whatever. So we are looking to expand in that way. But that's in 2 years, I just want to continue to evolve. I think if I stay on the right path and continue to do the right thing, I think it'll grow organically. Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to be a salesman here because we all got to be salesmen at the end of the day. I can tell you right now, I will be absolutely shocked. I'm not going to guarantee because there's no guarantees in life, right? I'll be absolutely shocked if you come up here and fish with us and you are not just wanting to be as big a part of it as you can, not dedicating all your time or anything. And when I say all you can, if you free up 3 weekends a year, because I know guys like you y'all's schedule is absolutely chaotic. Nothing else, no other way to put it. But you will be away doing your job and doing what you love. And in the back of your mind, you're going to be like, what are them not lucky American fishing charter boys doing up there? And the reason I'm saying that is the people that have become very close to this, that, and the other. That's what happens. I mean, you just can't, it's addictive, man. Just being around the positivity, watching the struggles sometimes,
Yeah.
And watching it all come together on a boat and seeing, and in the back of your mind, knowing every dude that you're out there with has gone through their own battle off the battlefield. And at the end of the day, man, what type A male personality doesn't want to hang out around a bunch of dudes that have done, 4 or 5, some of my buddies have done 18 plus deployments.
Dang.
Yeah. What type A personality, American God-loving dude doesn't want to hang around these dudes that have done such incredible things, Like, that's why it's one of the reasons I do it. I get to hang out around these awesome guys, and it's amazing, man. So hopefully you'll come out and give it a shot.
Yeah,
brother.
I'd love to do it. How would people support what you're doing?
Well, you can go to notlucky.org. Okay. You can actually do
Not
the
lucky with a K.
K. Yes, sir. Thank you. KNOTLUCKY.org. If you mess up and hit .com, it'll take you there. Cause I think even if you spell it wrong, it'll take you there. Cause I bought a lot of the things that sounded like it. And also a big support that helps everything is obviously, as you well know, hitting that subscribe button on the YouTube channel, American Fishing Charters. We're on all social media platforms. I'm even learning what are all the cool kids doing? TikTok.
Yeah. My daughter told me I couldn't be on there. She said I don't
understand it. I remember it about once every couple of weeks. I put a cool little video clip up of a fish jumping out of the water or something, but we're on all that stuff. And obviously that support helps. But if people are trying to financially support, notlucky.org. And once again, the money, 100% to the nonprofit. I don't take anything from it.
Gotcha. Awesome, man. Well, I've loved getting to know you, catching up a little bit and finding out what you're doing. You're doing great work, man. You really should keep going, man. Keep going.
Thanks for dealing with my random brain bouncing around everywhere.
That's what
I wish I could blame all the concussions, but I was always a little scatterbrained even before that.
Yeah, man. Well, that's awesome, man. Well, good job. I'm glad to see you on the right track and living such a positive life, man. You're doing great work for yourself and for other people. So
thanks,
you should be.
Tom. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to be it for today. And if you want to follow Jimmy, go to the website, go to the social media, check him out all over the place and see all the good stuff that he's doing with the veterans and go take a charter. He promises it's going to be good.
Yeah. Come book Hunter. Book Hunter. He's going to be on that 24-foot brand new boat.
There you go.
I'm trying to look. I want him running through the pace. His goal is to hit 200 charters his first year.
There you go. There you go.
That's what we're going for. So right. If you call, make sure you ask for Hunter. He's better fisherman than me anyway.
All right. Well, that's great one for this week. We'll see you guys next week, and we're out. See ya.